The patient lies on the cold steel table, but this is no ordinary dissection. As the scalpel slides through the dermis, we find something terrifying. Not just blood and bone, but a shimmering polymer web. A synthetic ghost has inhabited the machine. The autopsy of the 21st century human begins now. Welcome to the plastic era. A $2 trillion strategic masterpiece orchestrated by the giants of the chemical industry. They didn't just sell us a product, they colonized our biology. From the water you drink to the air you breathe, every breath is a transaction in a global polymer ledger. We begin our primary incision at the 1950s boardroom. The strategic pivot was simple. Replace durability with disposability. Glass and metal were too permanent, too unprofitable. They needed a material that was cheap to produce and designed to fail, ensuring a permanent loop of consumption and dependency. Look at the chemical signature of the blood on this table. We find high concentrations of PFAS and phthalates. These are not accidental contaminants. They are the strategic leftovers of a production model that prioritizes margin over molecular integrity. The industry knew the cost, but the profit was too intoxicating. The autopsy reveals biological obsolescence. By flooding the market with endocrine disruptors, chemical giants created a secondary market, the trillion-dollar chronic illness industry. A perfect synergy of profit. Sell the plastic that causes the rot, then sell the medicine that treats the symptoms forever. A closed loop. Social media and marketing acted as the anesthetic. For decades, they sold us the dream of convenience to mask the reality of contamination. Every colorful ad for a bottled drink was a strategic layer of camouflage designed to keep the consumer from looking at their own molecular decay. Examine the strategic deception of recycling, a brilliant psychological operation launched in the 1970s. The industry knew that recycling 90% of plastics was economically impossible. The little green arrows were never meant to save the planet. They were meant to save the plastic industry's reputation from the rising public outcry. The rise of micro-slavery. We find microplastics lodged in the blood-brain barrier. The strategic goal was total immersion. When the very building blocks of your body are owned by corporate patents, do you still own yourself? The autopsy shows that the death of ownership has become a biological reality. We find a massive blockage in the global supply chain of life. Every river on the planet is now a conveyor belt for the chemical cartel's waste. This wasn't a failure of management. It was a calculated externalization of costs. They kept the profits and gave humanity the toxic waste. The fatal blow, the Plastisphere, a new ecosystem where bacteria evolved to eat our synthetic waste, creating unknown pathogens. The strategic short-termism of the 20th century has birthed a 21st century biological crisis. The autopsy shows that our environment has been reprogrammed by the corporate board of directors. The internal memos of the 1980s are clear. They knew the polymers would never degrade. They knew the particles would enter the human food chain. But the strategic mandate was growth at any cost. The boardrooms were occupied by men who traded the future for immediate dividends. Let's expose the packaging illusion. 40% of all plastic produced is for packaging that is discarded within minutes. A strategic design meant to ensure that the demand for virgin oil never wanes. The plastic bottle is not a vessel. It is a physical manifestation of a debt. Observe the strategic lobbying of the 1990s. They spent billions to kill bottle bills and tax on virgin plastic. They bought the legislation to ensure that the public would always pay for the cleanup, while the producers walked away with the pure, untaxed revenue. The robbery was legal. The consumer experience was the Trojan horse. They made plastic smart, sleek, and indispensable. They integrated it into your phone, your clothes, and your kitchen. But the autopsy reveals that every smart device is shedding microfibers into your lungs as you sleep. A slow, silent invasion. Food-grade plastics, the ultimate delivery system for chemical rot. We find that heated plastic releases millions of microparticles directly into our nutrition. The industry rebranded this as microwave convenience. Autopsy finding. Death by 1,000 synthetic cuts, delivered through the very food meant to sustain us. The clothing conspiracy. 60% of all clothing is now made of plastic, polyester, acrylic, nylon. Every time you wash your clothes, you release millions of fibers into the water. The fashion industry didn't just become fast, it became synthetic. We are wearing the industry's toxic waste as a status symbol. The logomania of the chemical giants. They don't need their names on the product anymore. Their logos are written in our tissue. DuPont, Exxon, Shell, their brand legacy is permanent, etched into the very soil and the cells of every living being. It is the ultimate corporate branding. The autopsy examines the environmental burnout. The oceans have reached their saturation point. The strategy of dilution is the solution has failed. The system is choking on its own output. This velocity killed the concept of a natural world. Everything is now a hybrid, a synthetic organic mess. The plastic boycott is often too late. Even the most conscious consumer cannot escape the atmospheric fallback. It rains plastic in the Alps. It snows plastic in the Antarctic. The strategic encirclement is complete. There is no way to throw things anymore. We are in the jar. The ultimate theft, the stealing of the future. When everything is a derivative of oil, the economy is tethered to a dying energy source. The strategic error was not innovating when they had the chance. They chose to extract the last drop of value, leaving us with the bill. We now open the wound of infant contamination. Microplastics are found in the placenta and breast milk. Before a child is even born, they have already been sponsored by the chemical industry. This is the ultimate strategic capture, owning the next generation before they take their first breath. The greenwashing necrosis. Companies promise 100% ocean plastic products, but the energy required to collect and reprocess them creates even more carbon. It is a strategic loop designed to make you feel good while you continue to buy the problem. A sophisticated lie for a desperate market. The sustainability reports are a work of fiction. They talk about circular economy, while virgin plastic production continues to grow by 4% annually. The industry is not pivoting, it is doubling down. They are building new refineries while they tell you they are saving the turtles. The medical-grade deception. We trust the tools that heal us, but even they are shedding. IV bags, heart valves, surgical gloves. The very infrastructure of healing is built on the foundation of contamination. The strategy was to make plastic the only viable option for the modern world. The autopsy finds strategic lobbying in the water industry. By discrediting public tap water, they forced billions to rely on the plastic bottle. A masterclass in creating a crisis to sell a convenience. They took the commons and put it in a $2 PET container. Pure genius. The petrochemical pivot. As the world moves toward electric cars, the oil giants are shifting their entire focus to plastics. This is their plan B. If they can't burn the oil in your engine, they will wrap it around your food and put it in your veins. The phthalate shadow. These chemicals mimic hormones, leading to declining fertility rates globally. The industry's strategic expansion has inadvertently triggered a demographic winter. The autopsy shows that the synthetic soul cannot reproduce. The era of the human is being replaced by the era of the polymer. The export of waste. wealthy nations ship their plastic to the global south, rebranding dumping as trade. A strategic move to keep the necrosis out of sight of the high-paying customers. But the ocean doesn't respect borders. The waste always finds its way back home, the plasticized mind. The constant exposure to microtoxins is linked to neurological decay. Our strategic thinking is being dulled by the very environment we created. We are becoming as rigid and non-degradable as the material we worship. The industry has effectively lobotomized us, the financialization of the end. Companies are now issuing blue bonds to clean up the mess they made. They are turning the catastrophe into a new investment vehicle. They profit from the crime, and they profit from the punishment. The loop is closed. The patient is dead. A synthetic heritage. Future archaeologists will not find our books or our art. They will find a distinct layer of technofossils in the earth. A thin, colorful line of plastic that marks the exact moment humanity decided to trade eternity for an afternoon of convenience. The legacy is trash. The atmospheric microplastic rain. We are literally breathing the ghosts of our old water bottles. The strategy of out of sight, out of mind has been defeated by the wind. The autopsy reveals that our lungs are becoming filter systems for the petrochemical industry. Total surrender. The regulatory capture. The agencies meant to protect us are funded by the very giants they regulate. The safety limits are negotiated in expensive restaurants, not in laboratories. The strategy was to ensure the law was always 3 decades behind the science. The necrosis was allowed. The plastic heart. Microplastics found in the human heart during surgery. It is no longer a metaphor. We are becoming the machines. The strategic integration of the synthetic into the organic is almost total. The synthetic soul is an unavoidable biological update for our species. The microtransaction of breath. Every time you open a plastic bag, you pay a price. A few thousand particles for a few seconds of ease. The industry has successfully turned our existence into a series of microtransactions, where the currency is our own long-term health, the corporate immortality. The giants will die, but their waste will live for 10,000 years. This is their true legacy. They have achieved a form of biological immortality through the permanent destruction of the natural order. They are the new gods of the Anthropocene. The fear of the truth. The industry spends millions on counter-science to confuse the public. If you can't disprove the poison, make the people doubt the cure. This strategic indecisiveness has paralyzed the collective response. We are debating the science while the rot consumes the tissue. Final verdict: the synthetic soul is a corporate product. The $2 trillion conspiracy was not about a material. It was about the total strategic control of human biology. What we see on the table is not a human, but a manifestation of a 70-year marketing campaign. Can the patient survive? Only through a total, painful extraction. But the plastic is in the soil, the water, and the blood. The death of ownership is complete. You no longer own your body. The petrochemical giants have a permanent lien on your cells. The lights go out. The shimmering polymer on the table no longer glows. The necrosis of the 21st century has been documented. Until next time, when we dissect the next corporate titan. This is Business Autopsy Insights. Report closed. R.I.P. Natural Soul.